morning. I'm going to spend some time with you on the topic that we call connecting the virtual and the real world from an infrastructure standpoint through a platform I'll get into. Just a plug for the company, Bentley Systems. We've been in business for the last 30-odd years, focused specifically in the area of advancing solutions for the infrastructure lifecycle from design through construction and operations. And in the time I have, I'd like to focus on just one topic, and it's about what we call reality modeling. It's a platform story. About 5 or 7 years ago, one of our big customers had this grand vision to deliver a physical piece of infrastructure connecting the east of London to Heathrow, $20+ billion project before the Olympics. And it's still underway. And their plan was, let's build this thing and let's deliver a digital version of it at the same time. Now, they're in the process of still effectuating it, but the fact is, the vast amount of physical infrastructure that we have today has no digital equivalent. And think about the infrastructure deficit that we face. We don't have the money to build everything that the human beings need. We've got to be smarter about it. And we think that it is entirely doable with all of the technology convergence that we have today. And being in the business and being a civil engineer, it is a really, really fun time to be a technologist. And that's because part of the point that Bryn mentioned, consumerization, we can piggyback over the billions of dollars that are getting spent so that you can text somebody while sitting on the pod, right? Think about all of the sensors, all of the battery innovation, all of the stuff that's happening in consumerization. Couple that with the cloud, and we believe that you can actually build a platform that can really reflect every piece of physical infrastructure as it exists today and use it in a whole host of contexts. So from our standpoint, this geospatial platform, we call a reality modeling platform, can capture your planning phase to help you with what's something that you want to build, can help you in a space-time box of construction where a given space, stuff is changing over time, what's happened yesterday in this little space-time box in really, really great precision. And then operations, inspections. We have bridges that are collapsing. Think about throwing up a drone and capturing bridge inspection data and being able to actionably, quickly determine what you need to do with it. So consumerization meets the cloud, and there's a whole host of things that we think are eminently doable in this area we're calling context capture. Now, to Bryn's point, if you wanted to get your image, your face etched in stone on Mount Rushmore, you had to be a surveyor. And what was surveying? It was about essentially sampling the physical world. And over time, that sampling, and then of course all the analysis and everything else you did with it, has been able to get a lot richer. You can go from LiDAR to laser scanning, treating all the amounts of data that you then need to process. The problem is, at least in our industry, the infrastructure industry, the data wasn't very tractable, right? You get all these point clouds, and then the value is, as people have mentioned here, is not the data itself, but the actions. What can you do with it? And the ability to take photographs, and from these photographs create what we call tractable reality meshes, if you will, and the ability to do it in a continuous fashion. So you can do it today, you can do it tomorrow, and you can see what's changed. I think enables a whole host of really, really, really cool things that I can get into as examples. Here's an example on a construction site where they took drones, and every day they took just photographs. And from that, you can build reality meshes and then track these changes at every level of precision. Think about the millions and millions and millions of substations that exist on the planet today. Probably not a single one of those has any form of digital information that helps you manage it. Yet, it is a critical part of our power infrastructure, right? So think about just throwing up a drone, capturing some images, and now you've got a reality model that you can use in every context. Here's a context of using it in operations. So you've taken that data, you've processed it, and now you're running an operational system with that as context. Or the same model where you need to do some sort of an expansion. You need to do sort of engineering design. If you go down to any engineering office today, these guys sit in front of these big CAD workstations working with a black background, zero context. Zero context. And the expense of going out even before they start their work, the amount of money they waste on capturing the existing context. Even though the engineering project they may have upgraded that substation 3 years ago. They don't have the as existed, as operated context. It's appalling. So we, regardless of your religious proclivities, the Pope visited Philadelphia last year, and it was fun. Every one of us from Philadelphia decided to leave rather than deal with all the craziness. But we decided to put all this technology to test on a real-world example. And we volunteered our time as a company to help with the planning of this visit. So we decided that we were going to try to help orchestrate one of the big world family events that happened downtown. They went and we found a bunch of data that was publicly available from all these photographs, and we decided to bring it into our tools to model it. And then we worked with a production company, the Secret Service, a whole host of public agencies to try to model where the Pope was going to go and do it all in the geospatial context. So we got a bunch of information on where they're going to be, and we used some context capture software that takes images, throws it in the cloud, does some processing. I won't get into a lot of details, but the really cool thing about this is it can be done incrementally. So you can go out and capture stuff from terrestrial, ground. You didn't have something accurate, you can go back and get it again the next day. And then once you have that as context, you can start doing some really cool things in 3D. Right? You're placing barricades, doing all sorts of physical models. And then when you can bring all this modeling into, and that's the other cool part of our software, our lives these days. You know, there was a time about 10 years ago when I had kids growing up and they'd look at my job and they would think that I had the most boring job on the planet, and now I can go back and tell people all the Hollywood movies, all the Avatar, animation, all of that kind of stuff is entering our realm, right? So we can take all of that information, put it into these really photorealistic models and model exactly how it was going to be a cloudy day, what the line of sight would be for the Secret Service. We could model whether it's fall with the foliage, all sorts of really, really cool things. And then I'd just like to show you sort of a finished video that was done with this whole project at the end of it. So it was really successful. We actually, obviously through this whole exercise, found lots of things in the business process workflows, because as a technology platform, we're thinking about what sort of new business models can this enable, right? So here they took helicopter, they took some more photographs because there was nothing in the city of Philadelphia as a real world city model to start with, right? So they took that helicopter out. We had our own volunteers walk around the different parts of the city, and this is actually these are not images, these are not videos. This is a real physical virtual model, a reality model. And what they could do was pretty much build all of this digitally before they had to build it physically, to every possible part of detail. So they could actually almost model the Pope, where they would have to come down, how they'd have the security detail. Because in the past, what they would have done is they would have taken 2D drawings like this and tried to map it all out. Instead, they could all do it in 3D, in context, looking at line of sight, looking at weather, and doing all of this stuff And the agency that was contracted to do this was doing this for the first time, and obviously they don't want to take the risk, so we said, we'll do it for you. And to them, it got done cheaper, faster, better than they could have done it the old-fashioned way. So we validated the fact, and in fact, we just threw this stuff to see if we could do interiors as well. Right? So once we started playing with this, we started having fun with it. And it was just amazing at the level of technology that is completely doable. So this reality modeling platform, from our standpoint, then can really be applied in so many different ways in the infrastructure space. We're just tapping just the tip of the iceberg with respect to geospatial services, trying to map to sources of information coming from the other companies that have preceded me on the stage here, bringing context to your work, being able to explore different scenarios, even before you build something out. Today, we're just glad it gets done on time, perhaps not on schedule, being able to instead evaluate so many different alternatives before you can take the first step and build something. So from our standpoint, doing this kind of what-if scenarios, not just in design, but then continuous surveying so that during construction you're capturing the information, and then at the end of it, you have an as-built model of reality. And you can use that as context through the life cycle of these assets that live for decades. So from our standpoint, it's just a wonderful time to be in the industry, leveraging all the spend that's happening from all of these different companies out there, whether you're in the data capture business, or whether you're in the consumer business, or your cloud infrastructure business. We're out there piggybacking over the billions of R&D spent across all those different industries. So we think this reality modeling platform can really be a game changer for all of us in this room. We also think that it can enable new business value propositions of being in the business of maintaining these digital assets, that you can provide that digital asset as a service to the rest of the universe and use of that. Thank you.